Welcome to Facebook Live, Red Zone Extra. We're here after the Chiefs' 33-28 victory over the Baltimore Ravens here at Arrowhead. On my far right, you got Sam McDowell. Next to me, Sam Mellinger. Vahe Gregorian is tying a nice little bow at the end of his story.
Sure is.
And he'll join us here in just a few minutes. Guys, I got to the stadium at, the game started about 6.5 hours ago. I got to the stadium about 3 hours before that. My shoes are still wet. They are still wet. That's how wet it was coming into I timed it just right. You know, just right in the downpour. But the rain held off for the game for the most part. Rained a little bit in the second half, but the rain held off, and they got this one in without any kind of delays or anything like that. I don't think the field conditions had anything to do with with the play. So Chiefs win again. Let me start by I'm going to read you some stats here, some Patrick Mahomes stats. This point a year ago, Patrick Mahomes had 13 touchdown passes, no interceptions. This year, 10 touchdown passes, no interceptions.
Off pace.
Yeah, so I think there's trouble. Yeah, there's trouble. No, he was tremendous again, and you come to Chiefs games or you watch Chiefs games and you try to find something to write about besides Patrick Mahomes or to concentrate on besides Mahomes. It's hard to do. Yeah. It's quite the challenge, isn't it?
He's overwhelming. I mean, I was thinking about this. The Chiefs missing against a really good defense, one of the better defenses in the league.
Yes.
Missing their best receiver, their starting running back, and their starting left tackle, which created, and the Ravens do a great job on blitzes and disguising all that stuff anyway. But then it's when it's makeshift, those problems become even worse. And the Ravens, give them credit, they held Mahomes to a season low 274 yards, I think, in the first half.
And for the game, 374 season low for Mahomes.
And I was thinking about this too.
Tied his season low with touchdown passes.
McCall Hardman has an 83 and 42-yard touchdown reception in the last 2 weeks. Demarcus Robinson was the most productive receiver in the league last week, and this week had just an amazing double move, find the ball when it's almost in your hands, one-handed catch near the sideline in the end zone. And one of those guys is the Chiefs' fifth best pass-catching option. One of them. And that's if you don't count running backs.
Right.
And you probably should count running backs.
Yeah, in this offense.
So, I mean, I don't know, man.
The Ravens scored first, and we'll talk about going for two here in a little while because they did that often today. So the Ravens score first, and then the Chiefs rip off 23 straight points. It was kind of like Oakland last week. The Chiefs, did they score in the first play of the second quarter, or it was right at the beginning of the second quarter? Because it was all 23 came in the second quarter, if I'm not mistaken. Sam McDowell, you talked to Demarcus Robinson a little bit after the game. He talked about his touchdown reception. I swear, you didn't see this in the TV replays, but I'm telling you, he didn't turn his head until the last possible moment to track the ball, and then he makes not a one-handed. He catches it with, or at least sticks his paw out to get it. He has to kind of tightrope a little bit. I thought it was a beautiful throw and catch.
Yeah, so he actually saw the throw before he makes the last move. So that's what was kind of interesting about that play. And if you watch the replay, you can see what he's talking about. He's peeking back at Mahomes before he makes that last move on Brandon Carr. He says he sees him rear back and start to throw it, and he knows for sure the ball's coming towards him the way Mahomes is angled on the play. But he feels like he hasn't created any separation for Brandon Carr at that point. So then he makes that double move that you're talking about, the second half of that where he jukes inside toward the middle. Luckily for him, Brandon Carr's eyes are fixated on him rather than looking back in the backfield. And so the move works, and that's why maybe he's a little bit half a second late to get to the play, but he felt like that was the only way he was going to be open on the play. And, of course, I mean, like you guys mentioned on the rest, I mean, he reaches up with one hand, pulls it in, and he's got to get both feet down, and it was a hell of a play. And the start of sort of that cycle of them pulling away in this game.
I don't know if he is if he's always had this ability, but he is showing us something this year that is just outstanding. I mean, like all Pro Bowl type wide receiving.
The talent is out of his trailer.
We can begin. Hey, so while Vahe is miking up, as we in the business say. Send us your questions and comments. I know that Brad Burgess gets us started with asking us if we can shelve the Mahomes-Jackson comparisons. No, I'm not going to. The answer, I appreciate the question, Brad, but no. Look, the Chiefs had this. They had a 30-13 lead, 30-13 lead entering the fourth quarter, and this game came down to having to pick up a first down on a kind of a gutsy call on the Chiefs' final possession for them to not feel the pressure anymore. The Ravens put pressure on the Chiefs.
Yeah, but there was, I will say, Lamar Jackson threw 2 balls up for prayer that absolutely cannot be completed if you're the Chiefs. I mean, there's the one where the Chiefs challenge offensive interference. I didn't think it was. Certainly not enough to overturn there. And, of course, the call wasn't overturned. But I think it was Fuller on the coverage on that play. Like, he's got to make that play. And then the cross,
Charvarius.
50 yards across the width of the field, about 10 yards down the field, where Charvarius Ward just camped under it and sort of almost forgets that somebody can cut in front of him. And it's almost like the receiver picked off the pass in that situation. But neither one of those plays can be complete. And if they're not, we're talking about the defense having a really good day today. But those 2 plays extended drives where they get points.
But sort of to Blair's point and your point all at once, I hope. Those plays were so different than Mahomes' play last year.
Right.
And they'll be probably in some weird way compared to him. I mean, the big play in a crucial situation, cross the body down the field, but they weren't. They really were Hail Marys and dependent on mistakes.
Yeah.
One way or another. Maybe I give Fuller a little bit of a less hard time on that. I mean, he was with them. There was a lot of jostling. I'm not sure it wasn't offensive interference, not enough to overturn it. But the Mahomes play last year, which I think is the sort of thing that to me distinguishes him from Jackson, it was still a laser, desperate situation, but it was a laser. I don't even know if you'd say the Ravens screwed that play up.
The amount of distance that Jackson's ball traveled today, he goes all the way to the sideline and throws almost all the way to the other sideline. It was actually pretty incredible.
It had to be the ball had to travel 50 yards in the air.
Eight yards downfield.
Yeah.
But the play was completed. I mean, it was made, and so the Chiefs go from a multi-score lead to a one-score lead at the end and have to. It gets down to 5. And one of the reasons it's down to 5 is instead of, I lost track at how many points the Ravens were leaving on the field with, going for 2, and the one of the 2 fourth down conversion attempts in the second quarter. But what did Harbaugh say about this after the game? Did you hear anything?
Wow.
Yeah, his quote sheet was pretty interesting. He seemed pretty irked that people were asking him about it. He just kind of said, that's the way we're going to be, that's the way we're going to play. And he may have said that, but I would certainly think that Patrick Mahomes being on the other sideline is the reason that we saw how aggressive the Ravens were today.
I think
It's a good strategy.
It is a good strategy.
You're going against this rocket ship offense, and not just that, but you have an offense that should be built to convert those things. With that freak show quarterback, with his speed and quickness, was that Okafor that he just put on skates by the sideline?
That was amazing.
It was an
Just to get an
unfortunate
extra
moment.
2 yards on a second and 17.
Just had to rob a man's dignity for two. And another one on the touchdown run, right? Like late in the fourth quarter. I mean, he can make plays like that. Ingram's a tough runner. Gus Edwards can get some yards. I like that strategy. I really do. I think it didn't work, but I think teams should be doing that. Especially, I'm sorry, one more thing. Those kicks aren't automatic.
Butker missed one.
Well, you do have Tucker, and that's the reason some of the Chiefs were surprised, because he's probably the best kicker in the league.
He's great, but that still, it goes down to and I'm not saying it's a big deal, but it goes down to, this is what Harbaugh was talking about with the analytics, I think. Because that goes down to about a 92% kick now. It used to be 100.
Yeah.
And now, it changes the math a little
Are
bit.
you saying
I
that
like
about
the
2-point conversions too, or are you saying that just about the fourth downs?
all of it. I think
all
think
part
they
and
should
parcel,
be.
kinda?
Yeah, I think you look. I mean, I said it the first time, kind of mostly joking probably, and then I was half joking, and now I don't think I'm joking anymore. Like, Mahomes is their best defender. He's their best defensive player. Like, he forces teams into these situations. I get why they do it, and I get, most football coaches I think are like very risk averse, and John Harbaugh I think thinks a little bit differently. He's more calculated and believes in the numbers, but I think it's a sound strategy.
Maybe it plays to their strength. I don't know. They run the ball well. Ingram ran the ball really well today, 100 yards, 3 touchdowns. But apropos to nothing, I can remember the Fiesta Bowl game 5 or 6 years ago, Oregon and Kansas State playing.
Yeah.
And Oregon, maybe they run back the kick. It was DeAnthony Thomas who scores early, and Chip Kelly decides to go for 2 right there and then. It's 8-0, and Kansas State totally demoralized. And I just thought, that's kind of smart. That was kind of, it worked, so it was smart. Today, I thought just the opposite. I thought when the Ravens didn't get the 2-point conversion to start the game, when they took the point off the board, Tucker made the extra point.
Made it, yep.
Chris Jones was called for, lining up. I don't know what the penalty was.
I think too many guys on one side of the ball.
That's probably what it was. So they moved the ball to the 1, and I'm thinking, you know what, that's probably not a bad strategy, especially with Lamar Jackson as quarterback. The guy's elusive as hell. But they don't get it. And now it's 6-0, and now you've kind of wasted a bullet, I thought.
Yep.
You had a chance to come in here and put an 8 on the board and kind of, what's this about? And now it's 6-0, and the Chiefs responded immediately to that. After they'd held the Chiefs, the Ravens' first touchdown came after they had forced a punt from the Chiefs.
Yep.
So I thought they maybe with an opportunity to they missed an opportunity to maybe take a little bit of control of things.
Yeah, and one of the differences in sort of the analytics that he's referencing is they had already made the extra point.
That's
it's
exactly right.
It's a little bit different in that fourth quarter when they go for it, although I still don't understand the math on the numbers for why they went for it there, other than just predicting the Chiefs were going to score again. But when you've already got the point, that takes the percentage, that weighs the percentages differently. I think that the fourth downs make a lot more sense to me because you're going to give the ball back to the Chiefs offense regardless if you don't get the fourth down or if you punt it. And all you're doing is just adding the amount of yards that Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs have to drive. And that's where I feel more comfortable just trying to keep the ball as opposed to give the ball back as opposed to the 2-point conversion. I felt less comfortable about them going for those 2-point conversions than I did about them keeping the offense on the field for fourth downs.
I feel the same way, and yet I do wonder if in the end it's just all part of a philosophy you're playing by. The whole thing is like we're doing all this, we're going to pour all this stuff into the way we're playing. This is the way we play.
The players liked it. You saw Mark Ingram's quote afterwards. I think he said, "I love it" 3 times when somebody asked him the question. I mean, I do think that there's something to be said about your players believing in what you're doing.
I think it also ticks off the defense, though. We talked to we talked to some Chiefs defensive players after the game. It's an insult, and
one of them told me that they
back.
felt disrespected. It said it pissed us off. We felt disrespected by it, but. A further explanation is they just feel like the Chiefs' offense is better than the Chiefs' defense, and how can we disagree with that?
That is not a hot take.
Especially with a defender like Mahomes.
Right. Exactly.
Well, and the Chiefs have proved, if nothing else, they've proved a lot, but in these 3 games, they can score from anywhere in the field at any time, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they scored from the 17 today in one play. And last week at Oakland, they go 95 and 94 on back-to-back possessions.
Good point.
So, look, maybe Harbaugh knows what he's doing. He's a Super Bowl winning coach. He's a good coach, and that's a good team. So, and they backdoor covered this game. So, I mean, they made it closer than it probably should have been. I thought the Chiefs outplayed them for most of the afternoon, but there the Ravens were with a third down stop away from getting the ball back, having to go a long way, down 5. But on that play, and you probably wrote a little bit about this. So it's 3rd and 9.
Yeah, 3rd and 9. Go ahead.
Well, I'm trying to think where the the Chiefs were on their side of the field.
They're on 37.
Okay.
Conventional
wisdom
51.
says run the ball here, bleed another 45, 50 seconds.
Yep.
You'll end up kicking it, and Baltimore will get the ball back with
45
seconds.
Out of timeouts.
Without a timeout, and they need a touchdown, not a field goal. Unlikely you're going to score, but the Chiefs said you're not getting the ball back.
Yeah, look, and it was calculated, right? I mean, and it wasn't like they're just rolling the dice, going with some gut feeling. I mean, in fact, that's part of the point that was made afterwards is, how much they've talked through these scenarios in their night before meetings and everything, and and Andy called it Pat's play. I mean, it was a play that Patrick wanted in that situation. He has some voice in the not necessarily the game plan itself, but in the sort of subdivisions of the game plan, moments and situations. And so it's a play Patrick liked. It's a play they did. I couldn't remember when I asked Andy about it. He playfully gave me some guff about I should have remembered that they ran a similar play last week. I don't recall the play specifically.
Some variation of the play as well.
But that's how I took it, and I think that the notion was that maybe Baltimore bit a little bit on that. Maybe maybe they threw to where they pumped last week. I just can't quite bring in the play, but I got the feeling they felt like they set Baltimore up a little bit with that look last week.
Well, and how about the idea that it didn't go to Damian Williams, who didn't play today because of a knee bruise, and it didn't go to LaShawn McCoy, who was out of the game with an ankle injury. It went to Darrell Williams, who until today had accumulated 44 rushing yards in his career. But that's what this kind of Chiefs team's been about this year. It doesn't seem to matter who's back there. They end up producing.
Look at who the guys who are out. Right, no Tyreek Hill, no left tackle Eric Fisher. Basically third string running back at this point.
They were out their left guard for at least a few series in the first half when Andrew Wiley went out.
So I mean, they do some. And look, I'm sure every team does this. But one of the things Patrick said afterwards about that is, Andy makes people feel like they're going to be part of it. So second and third teamers feel like they're woven in practice in ways that make them simulate the idea they're going to be part of it. I don't know if it's any different here than anywhere else. I mean, everybody must get their reserves ready, but there seems to be some impact, some effectiveness to whatever they're doing, because time after time, guys kind of just step up.
I think there's at least a couple things at work there. He draws up plays, and especially like if he knows that Tyreek Hill's out, he'll have a play where he's pretty sure Demarcus Robinson is going to be open on this play, and I'm thinking specifically of the play in Oakland last week when they had Damian Williams go on that kind of sprint motion to the left in the backfield, and it totally ruined what the Raiders were trying to do, and Demarcus Robinson's wide open for 40-something yard touchdown, I think 37, something like that. Anyway, I think Andy comes to guys like that in the week and says, hey, buddy, we got this play for you. We're going to make you look great. I think that's kind of and he's got 20 years in this league. Everybody says no Super Bowl, which is true, but he's got 20 years of making players on offense look really good. So when he comes to you and says something like that, you're going to believe it.
If that's the case, and I have no reason to believe it's not, and I want to believe that it's true, what a boost to a player early in the week to know that there's going to be something designed and run just for you, and be ready for it, because it could be called any time. And I'm thinking that it's probably not the case with McCole Hardman, but he got his first touchdown last week against the Raiders, and that was sort of he can do it. Right? He can play at this level. Well, today he's down the seam past Earl Thomas. I don't know where Earl Thomas was on the play. But an 83-yard touchdown reception. So it's one of two catches he has on the day. Do you remember what his other catch was? His other reception?
Was that shorter one?
It was that little swing thing that he bobbled up in the air and then decided to reverse the field. And I'm thinking, how smart and athletic is that? And he got a first down out of that. He was also the guy at the end of the game when the Ravens did a, first time I'd ever seen it in person, a drop kick, onside kick. Came to him. He stuck his arm up to call the fair catch, and I thought it was a pretty smart play on his part.
I agree.
So here's a guy. All we hear about is how it takes receivers and other skill players a couple years to get comfortable in the Andy Reid offense. Not this guy. Not him.
His path has been a lot faster than most. Even Jeremy Maclin. Right, like his first year, it was like, whoa, this is, and he's a smart guy that had been in the league and been with Andy. I mean, it was just like it takes guys.
And you got me thinking of the last guy to wear number 17, my guy, Chris Conley. Who, as smart as they come, I mean, in every way, and yet clearly was a step behind for his first year or two in terms of just mastery of the offense.
Tyreek, he started as a return guy, basically. Travis Kelce kind of had a red shirt with his knee, but
Watkins last year just had 3 touchdowns all year.
Yeah.
Is there, with the exception of Watkins, is there something to be said about having the 1-5 on the field, and and it just different. It's just a different
lot to be
breed.
said
I
for
mean,
it.
a different breed of cat. Here.
Along the lines of what you said earlier, or I guess you said, Sam, how much, you got Andy saying that to you, hey, we got a little something for you. How much do you think you get a little boost out of Patrick giving you that wink, like
Million.
Yeah. Hey, McCall, you're my guy.
Yeah.
Imagine.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's some of the DeMarcus effect. I mean,
Yeah.
he knows Patrick believes in him.
Because it's chicken and egg, but on that play, the Hardman play, it was Robinson. I forgot the other one, but there were 3 receivers that were basically sprinting down the field, and so you're stretching that out, and this freak arm talent makes the field. He kind of shrinks it. You're off balance on both sides of that for a defense.
You know what I love about that play too, by the way? I mean, Hardman makes no move on that play. I'm just going to run.
Yeah.
Go ahead and throw it to me.
Right.
But then Robinson, the guy with the closing speed on the play,
Yeah.
I don't even know where he came from. You said he was already downfield, but if you're watching the 4 guys running in the end zone, Robinson's the one overtaking everybody. At the end.
Yeah.
Give a little block. He probably didn't need it, but,
Yeah.
but I love that spirit in his play. He does that all the time, coming from the other side of the field for a block.
It's been fun watching him these last couple of games, DeMarcus Robinson.
Yeah.
Just the toughness, the speed, the toughness. He really is. I'll tell you what, he's playing at a Pro Bowl level.
Yeah, and you look at his route here. I mean, this is his 4th year here. I mean, he didn't play at all his first year. I mean, he's a practice
special
squad
teams guy
and
when
he's
he
a
got
special
to
teams
play.
guy, and so it's not really. We see this in other sports a lot, where it takes a guy a while to develop, especially in baseball, and eventually something clicks and they figure it out. They get enough experience. In football, to be patient with a guy like that. I mean, you said he played special teams. If he hadn't, I doubt this team would have stuck with him in year 2.
The Chiefs saw something in him. He must flash in practice that the parts of practice we don't get to see. They must really see something in him.
I was surprised by the speed he had on the play that you guys are talking about, because I actually think he's gaining ground even on Hardman on that play. I was kind of surprised he had that sort of breakaway speed.
You guys may have talked about this before the talent got here, but did you talk about his catch? That touchdown catch? That was astounding, really.
That
The
was.
more you look at it, I mean, and I think you were saying it in the press box. I mean, the way, maybe I was between 2 Sams, between 2 Ferns. The way he swiveled the head, I mean, that ball was already there.
Yeah.
And that's a different kind of concentration that takes, or just, extrasensory perception.
All right, hey, Jeremy Barnes, we're on the right. We're thinking alike here. He wants to know what we think about the defense. So far, they should keep getting better. I've been impressed with some of the in-game adjustments. I think it's a little difficult to measure this defense for the reason that in each of the 3 games they've played, they've had 3 score leads in the second half. They haven't had to, man up in a tight game, and this is the, you got to have this stop now. It's always been a little prevent, a little, it's different. It's different. And they played against a quarterback today who is entirely capable of, having big numbers in a big game. Like I said, I grade the defense every week. I can't flunk them. Can't fail them. Even though the numbers aren't. I gave up 450 total yards and 4 I think it was 4 touchdowns, right? Yeah, Jackson had 1 and Ingram had 3. But I think they did okay. I think they made in the first 2 games big turnovers in the second half. They didn't have a big turnover tonight or today, but they got 3 sacks. I thought they did some pretty good
Batted
things.
some balls at the line.
Yeah.
The more I think about them, I feel like they're like a Rorschach test. Like whatever you want them to be, you can make them be that, because they've made, I think, some noticeable improvements from last year and shown some signs that they can improve even more as the season goes on. But you can also say they're giving up 6 yards a carry or whatever it is. They give up 3 scores in the fourth quarter. That can't happen. I know, like, they had some prayers answered and all that stuff. But I mean, they're uneven right now. That's a dumb analogy, but to me, they show a little bit of a foundation, though, that, if they were playing like this in December, maybe, this is not good. But when they're playing like this in September, and it's a new DC, an entirely new staff, a bunch of new players, there seems to be something to build on. Frank Clark is a good example. Didn't really show up much in the first 2 games, had a little bit more pressure today, got the sack finally. Tyrann Mathieu got on the board a little bit. I mean, they're just, it's baby steps, but they're steps.
You know, you were saying this before the season, and I think this is really proving true. I mean, I guess we won't really care about it until we see the end result, but you thought all along they're not going to be any real form of what they're going to be till 7, 8, 9 games in.
I think that's right. Yeah.
And they're probably better than I thought they'd be at this stage. And I've kind of framed it by that logic. Like, you know, it's just going to take a few weeks. They've certainly done some good things. But your point, I think, is best of all, too, Blair, because it's like each situation has been a little warped.
It's just they haven't played a game in which they've spoiled their fans, right? They haven't played a game in which they're, you know, it's back and forth, and
Right.
The back and forth happens in the last 2 weeks, and between the end of the first quarter, the beginning of the second, and by halftime, it's done. You know, just about it. The game's changed.
I actually thought that the defense played a lot better than the numbers showed because of those couple prayers that we were referencing. I mean, Lamar Jackson didn't have a good day at all, and he's torn up the first 2 weeks in the league. I mean, he completed just like almost exactly half of his passes.
Yeah.
We didn't see him.
No touchdowns, and he had 7 in the first 2 games.
And we didn't see him running around a bunch besides that first drive. I think he had 25 yards maybe on that first drive rushing, but not the numbers he's been putting up in the first 2 weeks afterwards. I thought they did a pretty good job keeping him in the pocket. They sacked him a couple times, and we know that he's not an easy guy to bring down in the pocket. And I also thought it was telling that a couple of those sacks, or at least the one that Emmanuel Ogbah had, it was just him and Lamar Jackson. And that's a tough play to make. And
For sure.
Because of the contain they had on the outside, Jackson, even though he wasn't pressured on the outside, didn't really have a lot of places to go. So I thought their strategy defensively, especially on the defensive line, was pretty sound. And like I said, if not for those plays, we're talking about, I think, the defense having a really good day.
People are going to remember the play that Charvarius Ward didn't make.
Yeah.
You know, the interception he didn't have when it was a jump ball and kind of who wants it more, and he didn't seem to. He just wouldn't. He didn't get it. I thought he should have had it when it was up in the air, and I saw him. I said, "Oh, this would be a pick."
Yeah.
And it ended up being a catch. But you're right about Jackson's completion percentage. I thought he overthrew a lot of guys, especially on sideline routes. I actually thought the secondary wasn't bad today.
I thought so too. I mean, we didn't see a lot of guys roaming free wide open. We talk about the Hardman play, and
Hollywood Brown didn't have what did he
his
was
first
good.
catch was late in the third quarter, and he had 12 catches and I think 230 yards coming into today, and he was basically a non-factor in the game. All their wide receivers, actually. I mean, Jackson was really targeting both of his tight ends a lot today, and I think that's because the coverage on the outside was pretty good.
I think so too, and I thought they did a decent job getting to him. I thought it was interesting that when we talked to Andy Reid after the game, he always goes kind of down a list of things he wants to cover, before he takes questions. And he made sure to mention Frank Clark.
Yeah, I did notice that.
He made sure to, Frank Clark, kind of a slow start, but he got the big set, and it wasn't a big time. It was the drive late in the fourth quarter that held Baltimore to a field goal instead of a touchdown.
Yeah. And he did, the way he phrased it was interesting, too. He didn't just say, hats off to Frank Clark. He said something like, you bring these guys here, this is the sort of thing you want out of them.
That's right.
Which was, he didn't say it with that edge. I think his point was, probably to give a little boost, right? I mean,
$62 million play, I think is what he was getting. Jack Wafer wants to know what we thought of Thornhill's performance. There was just that one moment where he had him blitzing, and he got to Jackson, but wasn't strong enough to bring him down.
It was on the Kendall Fuller completion that he allowed on that fourth down play.
Okay.
I thought they used Thornhill, it seemed like, a lot to keep Jackson sort of honest in the pocket. And based on his rushing numbers compared to what he's done the first 2 weeks, you'd have to say that the unit as a whole did a good job with that. And I think he was assigned to that more than anybody, it looked like today.
Right. All right. So we give the defense, is that fair to say we give him a pass today? And why not?
Yeah.
Because Mahomes is really good. Have we mentioned that, how good Mahomes is? That with his 3 touchdown passes today, 14 straight games with multiple touchdown passes. Manning has the record with 15 consecutive games with that. By halftime, I think next Sunday. We should be there.
Lions are undefeated.
I literally knew you were going to say that.
Undefeated.
What was the other one? He's on pace for over 6,200 yards passing. The NFL record's 5,400, I think, or something like 5,500. He's on pace for like 54 touchdown passes. He's slipping a little bit in the touchdown pass.
Yeah, I was going to say the yardage pace. That's great. But
We'll
give me some touchdowns. So he's got 10 touchdown passes this time last year. He was 11.
Right. And he tied
13.
13. Okay,
That's
it was
right,
11 after
13.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And he tied his season high for interceptions today, too.
That's right.
He's been stuck on that number all year. Can't get
You know,
off of that.
I will say about the intercept, there was a ball today that could have been picked off, and it seems surprising because we have not seen him really throw any dangerous passes in the first 2 weeks, first 2.5 weeks, until he threw that ball over to Watkins, which the decision was correct. He just underthrew Watkins on it. He could have led him a little bit, but I thought he got away with some balls last year that just weren't picked, that were some dangerous passes. I think he's throwing just safer passes this year, more calculated passes this year.
Was
He
it
had a
DeMar?
pickable ball last week.
You
Yeah.
said, I thought you had a tweet today that when you saw one today, and that was his only second
It
one
was
in
that
3
ball to
games.
Watkins, and there was one last week that, if I remember, that kind of went off a Raiders defender's hands. And then later in that same drive, he threw an interception, but there was defensive. I can't remember if they said
That's right.
holding or pass
Yeah.
interference.
Yeah,
but,
there was pass interference.
There's a
there.
penalty on that ball.
There was a play today. I think it was a really nice. I think it was DeMarcus Robinson. Really got up for it, going this way on the field, and I think when it left Patrick's hand, it looked like that was highly interceptable, and it was nowhere near interceptable. I mean, it was just in the exact place where DeMarcus Robinson. I'm pretty sure it was him. It could have been Watkins. Went up and grabbed it. It was a great catch, but it made me realize how often I think that ball leaves his hand, and it looks like
Yeah.
it might be trouble, and it's just the velocity and accuracy is no trouble at all.
Paul Arrowhead wants to know what we thought about Tyrann Mathieu, the Honey Badger. I thought he was pretty active today.
Yeah.
I didn't see the tackle total. I think Kendall Fuller ended up leading him in tackles. But
Kendall Fuller and Hitchens tied with 8 tackles.
Okay.
6.
One of us had
6.
Hitchens as the
Rubber meets the road.
Rubber meets the road,
yeah.
huh? Big O Tire sponsor, Rubber meets the road.
Somebody else here had Hardman as Rubber meets the road. Who did you two have?
I don't remember. I think Matthew maybe.
Maybe you did.
I don't know,
Yeah.
honestly. But there was another play down by the end zone on our right side, on the left to right on your screen at home, where Matthew maybe even had a chance at a pick. Do you remember that?
Yes, and he won the
pass
end
over
zone.
the
Yeah,
middle.
yeah. In fact,
Should've
I thought he was going to get it.
But
yeah.
He's
He's listed here
Still
with
defending
three passes defended. Broken up, I take it that means.
I think a couple of
and
those,
4
even though he's a
tackles.
defensive back, were actually at the line of scrimmage. It seemed like
one was on a blitz.
One
yeah,
was, it was on
first
blitz,
half, yeah. But you're right. He missed that pick, which he should have caught that ball. But he's still in the right place defensively. Reads the play correctly.
Even if you just knock it down, if
Yeah.
pass in the end zone,
Yep.
it's a good play.
Yep. Okay. We've all noticed the results of other games today.
Yeah. Did
I
the
believe,
Chargers end up
I
losing?
believe the Houstons held on for a W at the San Diego Chargers of Los Angeles, and that gives the Chiefs a 2-game lead. What's the magic number?
Yeah, just rest the starters from here on out.
Right. Look, 0-3 Broncos, 1-2 Raiders, and Chargers, 3-0 Chiefs.
Yeah.
I didn't. Chargers have at least one loss. I thought they'd win today.
Yeah.
I don't know if they were favored or not, but obviously for the Chiefs, the objective, you don't worry about that. You just keep on keeping on, right? But it just maybe just in the AFC itself, there doesn't seem to be a lot of teams emerging. That I still think the Ravens are a playoff team.
I think they're a really good team, but it was in my head a little bit that
You thought they were really good. Like you
Yeah.
thought they were winning today's game.
I did.
Good.
I did.
Yeah, that's-
just a few more Lamar Jackson prayers, and I would have been right. But I feel like the gap. I think we all thought it was Patriots, Chiefs, and then a little bit of a break, and I think that gap is probably a little bit bigger than I thought. 8 hours ago.
It
or
might
whatever.
be. I think in a game like this is important for a potential home field, playoff home
Absolutely,
field game,
yeah.
right? If
Yeah.
They both finished 12-4 or something,
Yeah.
and that's the real value, a big value of an outcome like
Yeah.
this.
I mean, they're 3-0 against 3 AFC teams,
Also a good
including one in the division.
Yeah,
That'll
not a bad
play.
place to be.
Yeah, that'll play.
They were 3-0, of course, last year, right? And I think they're
5-0.
5-0, right? Before they went to New England,
Yep.
right? Patriots was Game 6. It goes Detroit, at Detroit,
Colts at home.
Colts at home, Texans at home, at Broncos, and then like Packers Vikings or Vikings Packers after that. They're going to be favored in every one of those games, right? They're going to be favored in every game.
They're going to be favored in every game, but maybe New England.
Except New England.
I mean, like Sam said, I think one of the reasons you picked the Ravens was because you just felt like they're going to lose one game that they're favored in, that they probably shouldn't, that nobody expects them to really lose. But on paper, I mean, they're going to be favored in 15 or 16 games
They
this
should go
year.
15-1 at worst, is what you're saying.
They get an upset.
Even in their 13-3 years back in the 90s, they seem to lose a home game. I think they've only had like 4 or 5 undefeated seasons at home in their history.
Yeah.
Well, and another thing, like you try to like construct. It's a dumb way to do it, but at least when I was like going game by game, I'm like 13-3. Like that's what I'm going to make them. And
Right.
and then you look for the 3. And one of the things that's in my head is that Andy Reid. We talked about this, I think, maybe on Thursday, but like they don't play poorly against bad teams. Like they beat bad teams, as Dick Vermeil always used to emphasize. The losses come against playoff teams, and even though they're not playing bad, they didn't play poorly in a game last year. They played poorly in 2 first halves against the Patriots, but overall, you know what I mean. So like it's just.
That's a
you said
really
it, man,
interesting
like,
point,
they're gonna
actually. You've made it before, but it's really resonating now. It's been a long time since they just didn't play well,
Yeah.
right? Overall for a whole game.
We talked about last week. I think you have to go back to that stretch in 2016 where they lost 5 in a row. The great start.
Jets, Giants.
Giants, Bills were in there too. Tyrod Taylor, remember that team?
Tyrod Taylor.
The quarterback
to
who
carve
just
up the Chiefs.
befuddled the Chiefs. That's
No
right.
matter who he was playing
Right.
for.
Alex Mitchell says, I think we look much better as a team today. Why doesn't the score reflect that? Look, because the Ravens are a good team. That's the simple thing. And the lead of my game story was, for one series in the second half, the Chiefs didn't throw the ball, right? And that was when they didn't get the 4th down conversion. So what the hell are they doing? What is that?
Did you use that term?
Yeah. I used heck. I did. But this is Facebook Live and it's dark.
It is, yeah.
So
It's,
what the hell? I mean,
I'm glad you got into that point. We were talking about this. I don't know if there's any way to gauge it, and you'd have to figure out different permutations of it, if that's the right word. But how many series since Patrick Mahomes has been the starting quarterback have there been no passes on the series? And how many, by the way, how many of those were anything less than a 3 and out anyway? I mean, or anything more than a 3 and out? It was really a strange sight.
it was.
What the heck?
Yeah, what the heck? And that was the series where LaShawn McCoy had the 25-yard run on first down to get him to midfield.
Yeah.
And I imagine at the time they thought, okay, we can bleed some clock and, ride McCoy. And
I thought McCoy said something interesting today in the locker room. He said it's the first offense he's played on where he's not the best player. And so
That's great.
First of
He's
all,
right. I mean,
first
he's
of
right.
all, it's just a great thing to say.
Right.
But second of all, he's not really that close to the best player on this offense, even if you don't include the quarterback. I mean, you look at Travis Kelce when Tyreek Hill's healthy. But he said the space he has when he runs the ball is different because he doesn't feel like the whole defense is like, where's number 25 on the field?
right.
It's an awesome thing to say.
It is. I love that. I love that. Okay, and we're going to wrap it up here with some really quick final thoughts. We've covered most of the bases here, but Vahe, what say you? Your punishment for being late is you're first to bat.
Just
as the
this.
final thought.
I just maybe you spoke to it, but so Andy Reid now is the 6th winningest coach in NFL history, 210 wins, surpassing Chuck Noll. What's different between the two? Chuck Noll has 4 Super Bowls, and everybody ahead of Andy has multiple NFL championships. Some of them were in the pre-Super Bowl era. So I do believe Andy's a guy who's going to win a Super Bowl, and I tend to think that sort of thing happens more than once you break the seal. But got to win the first one.
You thought that before the quarterback arrived as well.
I think that's true.
You did.
And really, how can you not think it now?
Yep.
Honestly, I mean, I get that there's still that defensive trapdoor. You just don't know on the defense, but they're never going to be out of it.
Right.
You know, so so just that. You know, kudos to Andy Reid. I mean, you know, Sam has used this term, and this is true. I mean, saved the franchise to some degree.
Sure,
right? I mean,
sure did. All right, Melly, what you got?
I didn't realize this until being informed by Twitter, but then I thought through it, and it is accurate. Patrick Mahomes has never played in a dome before. He's going to throw for all the yards.
That's right. All of the yards he will gain. He will gain.
That's just, ever since I saw that, I was like, I mean, you know, they played in the Mercedes Dome in the preseason.
And
But,
do you remember what he did in that game? Do you remember the ball he threw in
do you
that
think
game?
climate control is in his favor?
yeah, so that's just what I've been, like, ever since I saw it, I was like, oh my God.
All of the yards.
It's going to be a problem.
I think Harrison Butker might kick a 70-yarder next week. All right, Sam Mack.
To me, what stands out the most is just the way the offense can just plug in a new guy. And I think it's a credit to what Andy Reid has designed, but obviously also the quarterback. And those two together, they've got a bunch of talent around those two guys, but it's starting to seem more and more like it doesn't even matter how much talent they have around those two guys. I mean, we've seen guys that just haven't had success in this league before, whether it's because you're a rookie and you're McCole Hardman, or whether it's because you're Demarcus Robinson and haven't had much of a chance to really break out, or a guy like Sammy Watkins that didn't have a great year last year. But it seems like when you've got Mahomes and Reid, everything seems to fit, even no matter who's missing. As much as we like to panic when they're missing this guy or this guy or this guy, the offense just keeps going.
All right. Okay, I'll end it with a couple of thoughts. Shout out to Dustin Colquitt. I'm with you, Barbara Hedrick. You know, Colquitt set the club record for games played by a Chiefs player today when he trotted on the field to punt. I thought it would be for a hold or an extra point or a field goal, but he broke the record by punting in the first quarter. 225 games for Dustin Colquitt.
You think the offense just wanted him to have that moment?
Maybe just
Maybe
run
it's-
out there by himself. That's right. One of the all-time good guys. Great guy in the locker room. And finally, I'll say this: there will be a new cast member soon to this group. Herbie Tiope is going to join us. I don't know if he'll be at Big O Tires on Thursday. He'll definitely be in
better
Detroit.
be.
Yeah, damn right
You
he
know?
better be. That's
What are we
right.
paying him for?
That's right. All right, so Herbie will be here Thursday at Big O Tires, and he'll be in Detroit with us on Sunday. We are really looking forward to having Herbie join the group. And I said that was the final thought. Here's the real final thought. Thanks to Big O Tires, our sponsor, and thanks to Beth Welsh. I knew a Barb Welsh, that's why. But thanks for Beth for running the show here. And we will see you guys again Thursday from a Big O Tires in Kansas City. Good night.